Buddhists because it's all a practice to them. And again, for me, the real key to the Buddhist practice leading to personal freedom, which is completely aligned with the Toltec perspective, that the goal in life, once you wake up in the midst of a reality that's basically an inherited reality. We're born into the world. There's already a reality going on here when we're born here. And we all inherit a role, you know, in the families that we're born into and the cultures and the religions and all of that. So we're literally born into an existing reality, and then we adapt to it. And we start trying to figure out how do we fit into it, and we move forward in life that way. Well, waking up to the fact that, wait a minute, what I'm living here was an inherited reality, and I've not really created my own unique relationship with this reality. You follow me? Mm-hmm. And that as a human being, I have a responsibility to own what I believe rather than accept what I've been told and what I've been taught, which resonated with me because I tend to not want to do anything that I'm told. I question everything. The basic tenets of this mystery school teaching is that this reality, this world, is a manifestation of light. That it's varying degrees and densities of light, which today is completely aligned with the majority of the perspectives of the quantum physics world. And that it's a multidimensional reality. There are many infinite dimensional frequencies that are all overlapping that make up, out of that overlapping, it makes up what we call reality. And that the world being a manifestation of light, we are in turn multidimensional beings that exist in a form, in a physical body. And that physical body, in Teotihuacan, there's a series of plazas. And the plazas represent the layers of frequency, the layers of form that have been manifest of light that make up our human. And so the human, the first level, the densest form is the physical form, is our physical body. And our physical body is literally an expression, an extension of the earth, because all the elements that make up your physical body are elements of the earth. They come out of the earth, okay? So, I mean, there's a direct connection to why the earth is seen as the mother among so many indigenous peoples. You know, it is the mother of our physical form. The next layer of the human existence is the emotional body, and the element of emotion is water. And when you study this, if you look at it, there's a pretty direct correlation between the characteristics of emotion, the nature of emotion, and the nature of water. I mean, one of the easiest ones is tears. You know, tears are an expression of emotion, and clearly tears are water. But also, if you look at the relationship between emotion and water, if you look at what Dr. Emoto, the Japanese man, did with, you know, with water, you can just start drawing awarenesses out of the fact that the integrity of our emotional body and the integrity of our physical well-being, like the nature of our health and all, is really it's all interconnected, you know, in the nature of how we deal with our emotions. And there's a direct effect on the quality of the structure of the water that makes up our form, and the nature of how we hold emotion in our system. You know, so I mean, each one of these plazas, you can go on and on and on, because people spent years in the transformational evolutionary process of developing awarenesses of these aspects of being human. The next level is the mind, and the element of the mind was air. The mind gets, there are a lot of nuances to dealing with the mind. You know, the mind is what creates all of our stories. Humans are storytellers. We create stories about reality. We create beliefs, which are just stories, from my point of view. We literally, by the inheritance of a reality, being born into the world, your inheritance of your reality is then supported by how the mind interprets experience and relates present living experience to all the information that's stored in our mind, basically like a hard drive. You know, you have your whole life downloaded in your mind, and then it all relates, and then we qualify and we quantify, and we create stories that are consistent with what we already think we know, with what we already believe, which supports the mind's need to be right. And the mind's need to think it understands what's going on here, because the mind doesn't feel safe and happy if it doesn't think it knows what's going on.
What are your thoughts on the whole idea of 2012?
Well, it's not an idea today, it's the date. You know, if I just bring it down the way that I like to do, if I bring it down to the reality of what I see and feel and hear, what's going on around us today in the world, we're in a time of change. And the systems that we have all grown up and have been so familiar with, that seem to work so well, you know, over the last 100 years or whatever, those systems are all falling apart. And when you look at them really closely from a kind of an outside point of view, you realize that the systems and the way we've been living is just not sustainable in so many ways, I mean, across the board. And so we're at one of those crossroads in evolution, I believe, you know, where we humans are going to evolve beyond the limitations and the downside of the way we've demanded to live on this planet up until now. And we're going to get back in tune and back in alignment with sustainable ways of living, conscious ways of living, where we live in relationship with this earth and with nature and with each other, and, you know, with between countries and between peoples. That we're in a process of rapid evolution, you know, and rapid evolutionary processes are ruthless. So some make it and some don't. You know, and the ones that mess around and try and hold on to what they've known from the past are the ones that typically get left behind. As far as 2012 being some doomsday thing, I don't, you know, I don't give that any energy because I don't buy it. But I do think it's the death of an era. I think it's the death of a way of thinking and seeing life, and it's a death that's not happening any too soon. You know, the issues that we're facing are issues that we've created just from a lack of attention and awareness and respect. Respect for life and respect for the world that we live in. And so we're going to get checked here. And we're going to get checked real hard, I believe, before it's over with, you know, because that's what it takes, evidently, to get humans to pay attention. You know, we got to get hit pretty hard more than once before we're willing to really question what we're doing. A lot of people tend to be defensive of their belief systems, because if they're wrong, then their whole reality gets rattled. You know, because we vested our faith in what we believe, we vested our faith in what we think we know, and we may not even be aware of it. But when you give your faith to a belief that you've made up, it gets a little incestuous from my point of view. And so the mind is continuously creating stories, it's continuously interpreting experience, it's continuously qualifying and judging. That's all the judgment exists in the human mind. You know, that's, again, it's just my point of view. It's my point of view, which has been derived a large part from my experience with what you would call the Toltec mystery school. But judgment as such is an inherently human practice. It's an inherently human trait. And judgment happens in the mind. It's not happening in the body. The emotions are a response a lot of times to the nature of how we judge. We judge ourselves as wrong and then we feel bad. We judge ourselves as not good enough and then we feel not good enough. You know, so emotions are a reaction to the thought processes of the mind and the experiences of life. We have an experience as a human, and there's an emotional reaction associated with those experiences.